Okay. As I said before, greetings all. It's so good to be here again on the Freedom Friday Forum. It's also so good to be here with our good brother, Dr. Koko. Dr. Niyana, Koko Rasayon, and a person whose intellect I can't tell you how much because his book is knocking my socks off. So um, but I'll let him do any talking concerning him, not me. I'm not even close. So, but we have to start. And as you know, folks, when we start with the UNIA-ACL RC2020, we have some rituals we do. And it's going to be short, nothing to bore you to death, but obviously absolutely necessary. Okay, first I'll start with the official UNIA pledge to the flag. I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green. I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and the liberation of her scattered black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism, and I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until all black people are free and united through one God, one aim, one destiny. And of course, that's our pledge to the red, black, and green. We of the UNIA-ACL are proud to be the ones in that organization that put that red, black, and green into the world. That red, black, and green, as you know, came out in 1920 when we had a convention in New York City that brought 20+ thousand people out there in the Madison Square Garden. It was, I suppose, something to behold. Just consider the time that was, 1920. That's more than 100 years ago. All right. We also have the preamble of the UNIA-ACL Constitution coming out of that very same time. Our ancestors put together a constitution. And here's what it says in the preamble. The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro/Black peoples of the world. And the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man. But with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generations of man shall be called blessed. Therein lies our manual. I guess it's the preamble, but it states who we are, it states what we're about, and it states to whence we want to be. Okay, that is our opening ritual. And because there's a lot to be said here tonight, I'm sure of that, I will not delay. I will not use up any more time, but to introduce our good brother, Dr. Koko. Dr. Koko, a behavioral neuroscientist. And here I'm going to read off. I think I need to do this entire thing here because, let me say, when I go over our presentations with spelling out who you are, Dr. Koko. I think it's an injustice not to give your full background. All right. Rasayon received his master's degree at Fisk University and Meharry Medical College, joint program in clinical psychology. He earned a doctoral degree in psychology, in psychobiology, I'm sorry, neuropathology at Howard University, via biomedical research grants and the Danforth Compton Scholarship. During his early adjunct professorship at Northern Virginia Community College, Niyana maintained his class rotations in psychology at the U.S. Pentagon and Henderson Hall, U.S. Marine Corps Base in Arlington, Virginia. Current research interests are chronic concussion syndromes. That looks like sequelae post-axonal shearing. I butchered that, Doc, but
it doesn't mean that, but like when somebody rock your brain and your axons stretch inside of your head, that's all it means. I don't know why you're reading all that stuff, brother.
Neuroplasticity, micronutrients in mental health conditions, food deserts, brain fog, post-COVID SARS virus, as well as a secondary tier of interests, which include undiagnosed PTSD, akin to learned helplessness, racism, domestic terrorism, and the influence of ancient history on perceptions of death. He has authored 2 books that build on social neuroscience: Reality Check, a manual for the human octahedron, and The Mystery of Melanin and Awakening. Oh my God, the president is black.
Was.
Listen, I concur. All right. Niyana will be completing his 3rd book. I think you've done that already, haven't you?
Yes, sir, Bob.
The 3rd book on ancient perspectives on crossing over. And that was supposed to be the fall of 2020. In addition, he is on the editorial board of the Journal of Mental Health and Social Behavior and a board-certified fellow and diplomate in African-centered Black psychology. His collective work experiences focus on clinical interventions and how to navigate the system of racism and white supremacy. His website provides a panoramic view of his work. And that website is Niyana, I'm sorry.
That's Eyes of Ma'at, brother.
Rasayon at UDC. Is that the one? Or you have
No, you want Eyes of Ma'at. EYESOFMAAT.com. Eyesofma'at.com.
Eyeofma'at.com. I've got to change this here. Okay. So that therein lies our presenter, or what he's about. And I have
in short is AI, which is our African intelligence.
Okay, so all right, Doc, I will turn this over to you because this subject matter is serious, and I shouldn't be able to be talking over what you have to say. So you're on straight away.
Yes, sir, Bobby. Let's see if the screen's gonna pop up and let me do this thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure it's entirely big.
Yes, sir.
Do we have the screen now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and you see that dude with that hat on in the middle with sunglasses? Okay, cool. All right, Bob, but first of all, I want to ask anyone in this particular arena where there's audio or visual contact, anyone over the age of 62 years of age on the planet solar cycles, I ask you humbly, do I have permission to keep speaking?
You have plenty of permission.
You have permission, Baba.
Asante sana midasi. Thank you so much. And I also want to acknowledge that I want to give thanks and praise to the spirit of the Honorable Bosias Marcus Garvey for actually creating a mindset that still remains alive today throughout the entire planet and the diaspora, because otherwise we would not be engaging in this narrative on this platform if it were not for his spirit. Having stated that, once we take a little peekaboo dive from what you see on the title, I want to highlight for you that as we talk about stabilizing health and identity in urban families, at the bottom you see Freedom Friday Forum by the UNIA, Woodson, Banneker, Jackson Bay Division 330, RC 2020. Must give props where props are due. And also you can see highlighted here if someone happened to have had an interest. The website is eyesofmaat.com, and that's my email address that you see above it, seafoodsentinel@gmail.com. Having stated that, I also have to give props to this sister, because we would not be able to engage in this platform if it were not for the sacrifices of the engineer, the sister who happened to have been a statistical analysis psychologist and an engineer, Marion Croak, won literally this particular prize that they used to restrict only to people that had done the epitome of research in engineering. And she received honors for her research and became an inductee into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. So I must give props to this sister. And I also want to point out that this sister made it very clear that we needed to communicate with voice over internet protocol technology that would allow us to have visuals as well as a much better quality of audio exchanges in this platform. She's still on the planet. I have to give her my props, because we wouldn't be able to use this platform if it were not for this sister. And also, one of the catalysts that triggered her to tune into this research was what happened during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, because she wanted to make sure that the information that was delivered was representative of what had occurred. Now we're going to take this dive. This evening, what I intend to do, I will pull up a slide momentarily and let you know what we will be discussing. Because as you can see, you may not know, because logic would suggest that the probability of greater than 70% of the humans have probably never seen an upside down or ventral or the belly of a human brain. And I put this here to remind us that we are now in a world where reality has been turned upside down. And so when your world has been turned upside down, obviously you're not able to think straight. And if your world is turned upside down, you may have a lot of struggles trying to maintain a sense of identity, particularly if you're in an urban environment. So with that in mind, we're going to have these fundamental questions as key to answer. And I'm letting you know that throughout the presentation, I will not dive literally into each one of these step by step, but I want it to be clear in your minds and the audience's mind that these are themes or concerns or issues or topics that I'm hoping that this exchange will evoke inside of you, awaken inside of you, and stimulate you to make comments and or ask questions. So these three things will be woven into what we discussed this evening. We're going to talk about affirming self-identity to reinforce family through food, music, and cultural alliances. We're going to acknowledge that recognizing that we occupy different boats, yet all of us are riding in the toxic rivers of racism, because these different boats represent, you could be Muslim, you could be classic Christian, you could be Hebrew Israelite, you could be members of the Osage Set Society, but we are all navigating the toxic rivers of racism. You could be a diehard Pentecost. It doesn't matter what your fundamental religious tenets or beliefs are. We are spiritual beings trying to realign with our resonance so that we can navigate these toxic rivers of racism and not drown and throw people overboard in the process. So we want to also amplify how critically important it is for us to be mindful of the optics of media polarization and the politics of one's religious orientation, as I've just stated. Because the media does an incredible job of polarizing our attention into ignorance and separating us into these groups based upon our religious orientation, our financial status, and even to this day in 2025, the 21st century, they still polarize us into little arenas of ignorance based upon hair texture, the width of the nose, the fullness of the lips, the definition of the derriere. All those kinds of things are functions of what disenfranchises us from our collective essence as humans on the planet, which represents a shade of consciousness, and thereby undermining our sense of self-identity. So with that in mind, I want you guys to use these things as a springboard if you have comments or questions. And because I'm not going to bathe you in a whole battery of slides this evening, I will lay out some critical fundamental slides that will serve as the foundation for us to process stabilizing health and identity in urban families. And we're going to literally address the current climate that we're trying to navigate based upon what has evoked so much anxiety and fear among all of us. So as I just stated, the world has been turned upside down. And if the world is turned upside down, that means your brain is finding incredible, incalculable difficulty trying to figure out where you are in space and time. So welcome to America. And I don't need to tell you, welcome to America. I prefer to say this is a 357 Magnum because you do know America is definitely one of the places on the planet that has, believe it or not, she probably has more guns than she has people, okay? I like this slide. I had to doctor on it several times because I ripped it from the internet probably back in 2015 and I polished it in 2016. So you see on your left, America, any questions? 21st century, that's the new form of biological warfare and genetic engineering. You see it on the left slide where you see this hypodermic. The 20th century, you see the noose into the 19th and the 18th century. You also see woven across the 20th and the 19th century a horizontal braid or strand of genetic material. And if you look closely, you will see the silhouette of hands holding on to bars that we're still struggling trying to maintain our sense of identity. And then when you move on the other side of 18th, 17th, 16th, 15th century, you see the chattel slavery. So wherever we have been on the planet, when we came in contact, and I know people have sensitivity when I say this, but with our hybrid vanilla brothers and sisters, we've been subject to things that are literally inhumane. The things that we've been subjected to are clearly related to those people being isolated in very cold climates with pronounced calcification of the pineal gland, having incredibly compromised diets that did not allow them to get the micronutrients that they needed in order to develop properly. And as a result, they presented frequently what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Richard King, Dr. Timothy Moore, Dr. Joel Poolcrum, Dr. Naila Africa have identified as pineal calcification. And if people are in the air about what is pineal calcification, just think about the CPU unit inside of your brain being like the main unit in your computer. But rather than it being fully functional, it has crap all over it, so it's not able to upload your Bluetooth. And your Bluetooth is that which allows you to communicate when you are either close to humans, far away from humans, or just connected to humans remotely, kilometers, thousands of kilometers away. You can still feel and sense the essence of your people when your Bluetooth is online. And these people have subjected us to diets, lifestyles that undermine our ability to keep our Bluetooth online. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, wise, beautiful ancestor, ran into a whole bunch of convoluted chaos when she introduced the Cress theory of color confrontation and racism while she was an assistant professor at Howard University. And to cut to the chase, the essence of what she shared was her controversial views about the albinism that plagued our vanilla brothers and sisters prompted Howard University to say, you are speaking a little too loudly, too aggressively outside the box. So when you see Dr. Welsing making a reference and she points out that if you don't understand the system of white supremacy and racism, everything else you think you understand will only serve to confuse you. And so we're going to take a dive into these things that set the stage for the confusion. I admire this brother, Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he literally oftentimes will bathe you in science. And we don't usually acknowledge the people of color that are astrophysicists, But this brother, being an astrophysicist, took a dive into the human biome to tell you what I'm about to amplify as I talk to you about identity, food, and health. On the left side of the screen, you will see that Neil deGrasse Tyson points out within 1 linear centimeter of your lower colon. And those of you that may not know, just think of that as being the fingernail on a small child, the little brownie finger that vanilla people told you was your pinky. The smallest finger phalange on your hand has a nail on it. And I just want to give you an idea of the approximate size. And put this on a child, the approximate size of a linear centimeter in your lower colon. And I'm bringing this up because humans are oblivious to the fact that you are an incredibly sophisticated, tune in because I don't think I have the slide to explain it to you. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to abbreviate it. You are a sentient hydrocolloidal carbon-based photobioelectromagnetic transducer, aerobic type life form, eumelanin, pheo, or mixed melanin being, which translates into a sophisticated colony of bacteria working in harmony. And contrary to popular belief, all bacteria is not bad. You must have a ratio of healthy bacteria in your body in order to stay healthy. And this is where the nutrition comes in. And the healthy colonies of bacteria translates into stabilizing the human biome. And I chose to evoke Neil deGrasse Tyson because usually when you think about the human body, you think about a physician, all right, or a medical doctor. But I want you to know that typically medical doctors are technicians. Medical doctors oftentimes have less than the knowledge that you need to have to maintain a stable life form because they literally rely on endocrinologists and microbiologists. And oftentimes endocrinologists and microbiologists are PhDs. They don't have MD degrees. And the MD degree translates into someone that is empowered to practice the art of centering on you that we refer to as medicine, which means to put the energy back in center, medicine. Hence, that's why when you're being treated by these people, they say they are working on two things, a disease or a disorder. Only in the past 25 years have they come into acknowledging medicine is complementary, which means you have to do things that relate to nutrition, habitat, and environment. Here we go again. This is what keeps us trapped. Religion, not spirituality. And at this very moment, over in Vatican City, the Madonna that the Pope once bowed to on a regular basis was a lot more like this and not even remotely like that. Referred to as the Black Madonna. And I'm bringing this up because I know there are a lot of melanin-dominant humans that have embraced the Catholicism, and a lot of them may not know that the roots of Catholicism is basically a sophisticated, slightly tweaked, or more should I say, aggressively tweaked version of classic knowledge tied to the Meta Neter, which had to do with the attributes of God that the ancient Africans, or should I say the attributes of God/goddess, that the ancient Africans associated with natural law. Hence the term in the Neteru, or the Neter has built into it the actual consonants for the word nature. NTR represents Neter, all right? And when you add the U and the E, then you're clearly going to get what? And the A, those vowels, you're going to get nature. You add that to Neter, you're going to get nature. And nature is the essence of a thing unfolding in an environment in harmony with its habitat. So we cannot ignore the system of white supremacy is a virus that undermines our collective identity. I love to revisit this because what happens in this society is the dominant culture, i.e. European history, has literally conveyed to us that there is no history if it's not European history. Hence, they have stricken, and they're in a process as we speak, of trying to remove any narrative, any textbooks that speak to the identity of melanin-dominant people from libraries and even museums. So this is where we are, trying to get a handle on identity. You may not know it, but they're in the process at this very moment of working on this incredible colossal computer to literally do what you see fading away in this bubble at the left corner of the screen, erasing your identity. And it's being erased almost daily through a Nazi's web that most people refer to as the internet or the World Wide Web. You find people wrapped up in TikTok, wrapped up in Instagram, wrapped up in what they call things going viral. And when something has gone viral, you have been infected because you are no longer thinking, you are riding the wave of whatever people tell you happens to be popular. And guess what, people? These people probably didn't even know that in this particular imagery of the human brain, and this is actually a frontal shot, you see that little light there? That little light represents the pineal gland. And the pineal gland actually can reverberate light while you are asleep. It can awaken memories inside of you when you are asleep. It can even allow you to do dream skating. It can even allow you to have what they refer to as astral flight and out of the body experiences. That's one of the reasons why those guys are going to be engaged in a conclave probably about 8 to 13 days from now to identify a new helmsman for the papacy, the Pope. They're going to get together and debate among themselves who's probably the most representative cardinal or whatever it is they like to have. Because they get together and they vote. And what you may not know, one of the reasons why you have little to no knowledge about the pineal gland is because the first council of Nicaea, probably 300 BC, they got together, made a decision that they were going to strike all of the references to the Apocrypha, the sacred knowledge that would allow you to know who you are and that you are a representation of the great spirit, God, goddess inside of you. Hence the terminology that the Jews toward referred to as Emmanuel. You are literally a manifestation of the God, goddess on earth. And as you come to the earth, they have misrepresented your birth by referring to it as where you come into a place once you've been released from a pool of water, which they refer to as the birth where you park a boat. But the birth represents the birth canal of a woman that you pass through that canal, and it's self-cleaning. It cleans itself before you come, referred to as the water breaking. And when that water breaks, the canal has been cleared for you to come through. And I point this out to you because we're in the process, as I speak, of trying to erase all of your genetic memories. And one of the ways to do that is to wrap you up in cyberspace, because cyberspace deals with pulses of energy that are intimately tied to patterns of fluctuating information that we refer to as cortical activation patterns under the rubric of brain waves. All right? Now, this is when we're about to get down to the nitty-gritty, when we talk about your identity. And I'll show you a book in a little while, and I will identify for you, these are the true men in black, not the ones in quote unquote the movies that dealt with life forms from outside the Earth's atmosphere. The men in black represent the men behind closed doors, the men that you don't see, the men that are literally manipulating your destiny as we speak. They are referred to as the oligarchs. But if you don't know what an oligarch is, just think of someone that is ultra rich, members of this planet's billionaire club. Billionaire club means you don't get in just because you are a billionaire. It means that you have billions of money. I mean, billions of dollars of money. And these are the people that, as we speak, are literally in the process of deciding and determining your destiny. And what's the brother's name? RR, the congressman. He passed away. He was on the Pettus Bridge. A little petite brother, really dark. You all know his name?
Lewis.
What's his name?
John Lewis.
Yeah, John Lewis. John Lewis had a saying that he would say, it's time to get in good trouble. And yours truly is about to get in good trouble. And you all may not realize that I stay in trouble. Because when you don't do the mainstream things, people treat you like you're not part of the club. They'll smile in your face and chat with you, but they will still treat you like you're not part of the club. That's the reason why I was teasing the brother about all those letters and those degrees. Those things are cute. They're nice to have to allow you to get in and out of the door. But my email address is the Seafood Sentinel. And that means the one that's skilled in being a watcher, the one that's mindful of how to be a watcher. And Sifu is taken from Cantonese, and Cantonese is a more current version of Mandarin. And Mandarin, contrary to what you may have been led to believe, those are old Kemetic languages molded together to be associated with your Asian brothers and sisters who represented the original Shaolin priests. You can ask Brother Dennis Brown, who's a martial artist grandmaster in Washington, D.C. You can ask Tayari Cassell, who's another grandmaster, and they will tell you about the Shaolin priests in ancient China being as dark and as brown as me. And those were the brothers that they referred to as, they called them ghosts. When the brothers went to China to actually do some gung fu and participate, Dennis Brown would tell you very clearly, the kids, they referred to them as ghosts because they looked like the original Shaolin monks. And most people in America don't realize that the Metal Neter and martial arts, or those forms of fighting, go all the way back to ancient Kemet, all the way back to ancient Egypt, to the Sudan, to the shores of the banks of Sumeria, the banks of what you guys now refer to as Old Chaldea, i.e. Iran, Persia. All that stuff came straight out of Africa, okay? And so these are the guys that are overseeing and make sure that you don't have access to that knowledge. And I'm going to show you the book that they are all on the cover of in a couple of moments. So I want you to be mindful of what I'm about to tell you, because I'm going to drop a few names here to let you know that some of those individuals that you saw in silhouette as shadows, this is what you're going to get when you start diving into that information. You might run to a website online and it will say fact check, and then you can't get any more information. Or it would redirect you somewhere with one of these things called an algorithm. Oops, AI, hackers are bad algorithm when you get that misinformation. And they're going to tell you it was a bad algorithm, or the hackers may have been fooling around with it, and or you're going to get oops, or you're going to get a website that says it's now under construction. So these people here, their names are self-explanatory. I'm not even going to drop them out of my mouth, but I will highlight the one at the bottom in green. And I want you to know, a lot of farmland being purchased in America, okay? There's a lot of new, quote-unquote, programs being written to manipulate how you navigate cyberspace. And there are special families intimately involved in manipulating your elections because they have billions of dollars. And when you have billions of dollars and some tech-savvy people on board, you can do a lot of things. But I will tell you about Klaus Schwab. Built an exclusive club in Davos with the top 25 World Economic Forum members, now worth more than 10 trillion US dollars, okay? So just think about what you can do with that money. So this is the book that preceded this book. These are the control oligarchs. And I just told you, these are ultra rich billionaires. And the names, I just dropped a few a little while ago. And you can see them here. You recognize some of them. But I referenced Klaus Schwab for a particular reason over here. And you know the people that are up there. You can see them. And so this particular book, which was dropped about a year and a half ago, exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. That's why I said we're talking about health in the urban environment. You know, a lot of people think it means like going to everlasting life, getting a good meal every now and then, and going somewhere and chill and have great talk. That's beautiful. But the meals can come out of the barbershop. The meals can come out of the hair salon. The meals can come out of a Malcolm X Park when you see guys drumming with the djembe drums and sisters dancing and just tweaking all types of high-pitched sounds that you usually associate with different countries in Africa. That's communication. And communication is the foundation of your elevation, all right? In this misguided, barbaric nation. That's some old school Jesse Jackson. The rhymes just come out all by themselves, all right? So this is the book. I just purchased this book the day it was released. And I got myself a digital copy because I want to get caught up with waiting for it to come and having it float through the mail. So I got myself a digital copy, dropped on one of my other places, and then I uploaded it to one of my favorite places. But it's okay for you to purchase. This book, The Project, how Project 2025 is reshaping America and it was authored by David A. Graham. And if you're familiar with the Atlantic magazine, he's one of the anchor editors plugged into Atlantic. And I want you to know it was just dropped the 22nd of 2025. So why am I referencing these books? By the way, do you see this albino or white elephant in the background? I don't want you to think that this is just all mud or something like that. But what I do want you to tune into is what I have highlighted at the corner of the screen. This little donkey that you see at the bottom, aka a jackass, you see written above it in the bubble, let's talk about it until the next election. Let's talk about it until the next election. And you know the great elephant represents that particular party associated with the Republic. And this particular donkey here represents the quote unquote Democrats. And I'm not trying to create a polarizing argument. I'm just trying to say to you what the First Nation people will always tell you. It doesn't matter if they're Salaji, Cheyenne. It doesn't matter whether or not they're Sonoli. It doesn't matter, all right? Whether they're Choctaw, it doesn't matter. They will tell you that that eagle that they call the Great Eagle has two wings. One of those wings is your Democratic Party. The other wing is your Republican Party. But they're both attached to the same bird, all right? Told you I'm about to do John Lewis and get in some good trouble. If you all hear anything about me running one of my rides at the Potomac River behind the Kennedy Center, I want you to know damn well I did not do that. Somebody put me in there and I swam out and took cover for a while, and I'll come back in about 7 to 10 years to tell you what's really going on, like Marvin Gaye would drop back in the day, okay? I don't get high. I don't hang out with people that have unique lifestyles, and I don't use any kind of drugs, and I don't own any firearms. I'm a crossbow, katana carrying brother, all right? Now let's break it down. You see David Graham of the Atlantic? I want to point out some things to you, and I want to give a shout out to Raji P. Henson for giving people a heads up. David Graham, I just referenced. The authors of Project 25 state, this is why I want you to understand it's not all about the Trump, all right? Everybody is caught up with what the Trump is doing. The Trump is doing this, the Trump is doing that, all right? But I want you to tune in because I'm not making this up. None of this is my stuff. I just told you this brother dropped this book the 22nd of April, okay? 2025, David Graham. These are some statements literally taken from his book. The authors of Project 25 state, we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. He said it in a July 2024 interview, and that guy down at the bottom that you see, Vaught, I'll bring him up again in a second. Project 2025 envisions an America where abortion is strictly illegal, sex is closely policed, public schools don't exist, and justice is harsh, all in accordance with fundamentalist Christian principles that would form the explicit basis for policy. And if you don't know it, policy has built into its phonetic structure police, okay? During the summer of 2024, this is why you got to give a shout out to Sister Taraji P. Henson. And I think it's so profound and interesting that we don't get this information from the Urban League or the NAACP or the Black Bar Association or the Association of Black Psychologists or the Association of Black Social Workers. We got it from someone from Hollywood, okay? Taraji P. Henson encouraged viewers to learn the name. The Project 25 plan is not a game. Look it up, she said. Many people did. Search traffic skyrocket online during the Democratic National Convention in 2024 in August. Speakers brandished an oversized prop of the book in an attempt to channel voter attention toward Project 25. You heard about it, and you also heard the Donald say he didn't know anything about it. And the Donald probably had vague knowledge of it, but the Donald did not realize that all of the things that he wanted to do, they were going to give him an ego platform to appear to be in control of all these things that they already decided. Are you following me? This is why when you lock down on CNN and MSNBC News and you cannot find Al Jazeera News on television anymore, you got to go online and seek it out, Al Jazeera News, all right? You got to look for it. It used to be on television probably about 6 years ago. But let's take this dive back. This is what they state they'd like to do, according to one of the authors of Project 25. We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected, Vaught said in a 2023 speech. 2023. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they're increasingly viewed as the villains. No one would be obliged to fire them under such circumstances. They would quit. Now, this is back in 2023. Now, haven't you seen a whole bunch of this stuff play out in the past 90 days? So let's dive into it. The black family, the melanin dominant family. You hear about it all the time, the industrial prison complex. Let's just look at some metrics, just process it for a second. And I'm sure you already heard this vanilla brother talking about he would like to deport people that are incarcerated in this country, basically 8 to 12-hour flight away from where you live outside the US of A, in prison colonies that they have set up in environments to deport you if they can get by doing some of the same things that they'd like to do. Now, Sister Angela Davis dropped this information on you about 40 damn plus years ago if they come in the morning, but you don't pay attention. It was also dropped on you with what happened to the people in the Netherlands, all right, when they didn't have any food during the war. Now, let's look at these metrics. 1 in every 106 vanilla males, people that identify as white, 18 or older, is incarcerated. 1 in every 106, all right? Let's look at our Latino brothers and sisters. 1 in every 36 Latino/Hispanic males age 18 or older is incarcerated. But let's look down at the melanin dominant people, the black men, all right? 1 in every 15 black males age 18 or older is incarcerated. You have to ask yourself, why? And just in case you didn't know, I'm going to give you a heads up. These people probably constitute about 48%, not the males per se, but vanilla brothers and sisters of the U.S. population. They constitute about 19 to 21%. These people down here constitute about 13%. Back in the day when you were a little crumb snatcher and a little kid running around or doing anything in the 70s, melanin dominant males or melanin dominant people in general represented about 38 million people in the U.S., the largest so-called minority. And now, next to your Asian brothers and sisters, all right, and your First Nation brothers and sisters, the Sky people, they constitute less than 0.02% of the population. And they were the ones that were originally here. And contrary to popular belief of what Hollywood told you, there were First Nation people that are as brown as me and Brother Sangor, brown as me and Brother Baba Mosi, and as brown and as chocolate as I am. But they had you thinking that they were the red man. That's the same crap they laid on you about your brothers in the Middle East, telling you that they are olive skin complexion. Rather than telling you that the olives they're talking about are brown to black, they would make you think that they're talking about green olives. And there are no green people on your planet, all right? At least they're living above, on the surface of the earth. We can have another strand lecture about some things happening beneath the surface of the earth. So let me just hit these for you so we can take this dive. Looking at the metrics that I just told you, incarcerating all these brothers, all right? And then you add to that the life expectancy just in the District of Columbia, okay? Just in DC. And this data was pulled from 2018, okay? And it got worse during the pandemic. I don't even need to read to you African-American youth are 9 times more likely to be incarcerated. The Latinos are 4 times more likely to be incarcerated. But let's look at the life expectancy. By the time you're supposed to start collecting your damn Social Security, you're going to expire literally probably about 4 or 5 years after you quote unquote start collecting it. If this dude doesn't navigate a way to figure out a way to steal from your Social Security, they've already begun to take a deep dive into your damn, what you call it, the 401k. They've already taken a dive into that. Can you imagine having all this money tied into your job where you work 15 to 20 years and then somebody tell you it's all gone? How can a billionaire take money from people that are living from paycheck to paycheck? But let me share with you. This is the epitome of the representation. There's that elephant I told you about. You can see the ultra rich You can see the U.S. wealth. Now you can see the middle class. Check it out. She gets a slice of the pie. A slice. You may get a few cherries or blueberries from this pie, and they have the nerve to put this term on you after they steal all of your wealth and tell you that you are, quote unquote, socioeconomically deprived, socioeconomically disenfranchised, or you are among the poor people. You damn right you be poor. If you leave your wealth in front of people and they steal your wealth from you, and you come back trying to, for example, some of these credit cards will tell you it's free for the first 60 days. And after that, you may have to pay somewhere from 18 to 28% on these damn credit cards if you get them. And if you are fortunate enough to purchase a home, they sell you a home with a word that tells you that you're probably going to die before you pay for it. En français, mort means death or die. And the first morpheme in the word mortgage, before it gets to the morpheme age, the suffix age, is called mortgage, which means you're probably going to die before you pay for it, and somebody is going to purchase your mortgage from somebody else, and they may jack it up on you. So I'm talking to you about your identity. If you don't understand politics, you'll always be vulnerable to politics. You feel me? So isn't it sad? You see her, she's looking like, yo, like, what's up? And you can see my man, tax cuts. Remember these tariffs they were talking about? Tariffs don't mean a damn thing other than we're going to make people have to pay more for whatever they usually buy. They're going to pay a little bit more money for it. All right? That's a breakdown of it, okay? And they say you may go through some changes for a little while with these tariffs, but it's going to be all right in a little while. Like a lot of black people were told, if you be a good person, a good colored Negro, or a good whatever they call you, that when you leave the planet, you're going to get your milk and you're going to get your honey. And you don't want no daggone milk while you're in heaven. It's going to probably give you problems with your stomach because probably 78+% of all brown black people have some form of lactose intolerance. So you damn sure don't want no milk and honey if you're going to go to heaven. And more important, like Bernie Mac, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, probably Moms Mabley. They used to say, yo, like when I get to heaven, do I get to go through the pearly gates? And the jokes were, no, the gates for you people are over here. Okay? So they're going to take your melon into heaven. Are you following me? And take your melon into heaven. But more importantly, what do you need to eat if you don't have a body? Back to your spiritual alliance and that classic saying that you hear a lot of people saying all over the world now, particularly out of the United States, folk that think that they are woke. I'm not in this body. I'm on a spiritual mission. I'm a spirit navigating the world through this body. All right? Drop it on you about the brain health. Not good drinking water, not good food. Your brain should be a little bit like that, slightly juicy, so to speak. But drinking these carbonated pops, drinking all these monster drinks and these things full of caffeine and these things with these artificial sweeteners in it, not only do those things screw up the pH balance of your blood, they set the stage for you to have early forms of major compromise in brain health and major problems with your kidneys, major problem with your liver, all related to you having a compromised diet. Now, I'm going to set the stage to give you some idea of what I'm talking about. Think about this as being attached to a food desert, the so-called poor child's brain. Look at the rich child's brain. How poverty affects the human brain. Now, if you don't get the graphic imagery with the brain, let me use a pair of old Converse sneakers to highlight it for you, okay? You see these Converse sneakers here? All right? I used to call them Chucks. Notice the laces in this sneaker that looks like it's all worn and torn. But at the very bottom of it, they would have you believe that it's restricted to old age. That's why you see the term senescent, right? Which means you lived a long time. But these little things at the end of your shoelaces called an aglet, they represent telomeres, which are on the end of your chromosomes. And chromosomes, the longer your telomeres, the more resilient your body is, and the longer you're probably to live and have fewer diseases. So if you have those jacked up diets that I just told you about, and a tremendous amount of stress, and you're living in a food desert, something referred to as oxidative stress, which is intimately tied to navigating a racist society, the system of racism and white supremacy, you're going to get brain damage. And brain damage is so sneaky that you don't even know you have it until it has presented a real obvious problem. You know why the problem has to be obvious? Because the brain will repair itself. You've been through the city. The other times you go through the city after the winter, you're coming in the spring, and there are a few potholes left, but then you drive along these roads, the potholes have been filled, right? And then you may forget that there was once a quote-unquote pothole there. Your brain has the ability to repair itself. The word that Baba was playing with a little while ago, neuroplasticity, doesn't mean anything other than your brain can regrow, not the entire brain structure proper, but the neuronal pathways in the brain can reroute and regrow and refurbish themselves. So if you're a young person, your brain can repair itself while it's being damaged. And you won't notice the damage because the brain has the ability to compensate for those things that were damaged. A lot like a person that may have been has some kind of trauma before puberty, before the age of 8 or 10 years of age, sustained some trauma, meningitis or a bizarre form of the flu or something like that, or meningitis, encephalitis, and wound up with a visual problem, became blind, all right? That sense of smell would increase. The sense of touch would increase. Their vestibular system would make them a little bit more aware of how to maintain their sense of balance. So when your body is damaged at the level of your brain, you don't notice it until years later. And those years later may not present themselves until you become a rising or budding adult into your 30s and 40s. Conversely, over a period of time, the wear and tear on your telomeres will become obvious because your body is dealing with extra stress to compensate. Hence, back to the food. Fair or poor physical health if you're in what they refer to as food insecure. You see how they come up with these words? Food insecure, food secure. You see how the language has changed so politely? Food secure, all right? 24% fair or poor mental health if they have, pretty good food. But if you don't have good food, rather. But if you have good food, it's 5%. And if you have problems with accessing food or a healthy diet, then 43% more likely to be directly related to your diet to do damage to your body. And that damage to your body, and for the record, this data is from 2019. That's just before the pandemic. This is one of the reasons why I was telling you to talk about nutrition. I won't even read that to you. This is, I think it's Mandarin, all right? Weiji. And the reason why I'm using this term because a lot of brown and black people at this very moment feel that they are being overwhelmed by the crises of the current governance that's taking place in this country. They feel that they're being overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. It's like, how am I going to handle this? People are on pins and needles about the stability of their income, particularly if they work for the government. But you do know your boy had to take a little hiatus, a breakaway from it. The guy from Pretoria that kind of fell into, what's his real name? Nikola Tesla, the one that did the research with dealing with electromagnetic pulse waves, which relates to what you guys now refer to as the Tesla cars. I'm mentioning that to you for two reasons. Whenever brown and black people have had to navigate a crisis, black people used to say this a lot. They would say, when vanilla people perceive themselves as having a bad cold, black people are almost trying to deal with double pneumonia in both of their lungs, all right? And when they say vanilla people are almost bedridden, they would say black people should probably be preparing for their eulogy. So the point being, when stressors hit your vanilla brothers and sisters, contrary to what a lot of people like to say, because what I'm saying now pisses off a lot of people, but reality pisses off anyone. There are people that don't even like themselves, all right? They say things like, I don't like my eyes, I don't like my lips, I don't like my legs. You see racial disparities in mental health? Now let me share with you how they play the game with statistics in terms of your identity. You see what they have here on the left? 31% of children identified or classified as white with mental health problems receive mental health services. 31%. That's damn near a third of them, okay? Now you see how they put everybody in the category that were not, quote unquote, identified or classified as white. They say all non-white, only 13% of children from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds with mental health problems receive mental health services. That includes all the people that are not identified as vanilla brothers and sisters. So when you think about stabilizing your family, who are your male children going to talk to if their daddy is locked up? Who are your male children going to go to if their uncle is also locked up? Who are your male children going to talk to if a number of the people that they're introduced to in the church are confused about their identity? And if they're interacting in these kind of arenas, logic would only suggest that they would do what National Geographic pointed out about 35 years ago when they talked about what was happening with the adolescent elephants. The adolescent elephants were raising hell because people had come in, poachers, and killed all the bull elephants and taken their tusks and took their hides. So the bull elephants, or the great elephants, is referred to as our brother Zulu Shaka, that it was the great elephant. And I already showed you the great white elephant a little while ago. And I shared with you how he's intimidating that donkey. And there it is in your face when I told you about the First Nation people. In your face, democracy. We're going to do this for you. We're going to work on that. We're going to do all these types of things for you. But let me back up. I hope I didn't omit this particular reference to this sister. It's sort of, let me see, I don't have it highlighted here. I must have left it out. But the Donald was asked a question that he wanted. He was pretty upset when Kamala Harris asked him during the debates in 2024. It probably was like October. She told people that they better get ready for him to start implementing Project 2025. And he said he didn't know what it was. He hadn't heard about it. Okay. Now I'm bringing that up because remember, I told you Taraji P. Henson is the one that brought this to most people's attention. This is what's happening, people. Those guys that I showed you here, I'm going to back up so you can see them. These guys here, the control oligarchs, throughout that book, they have detailed information in it that tells you that this is what they want to do. Where is it? I was looking for the language to tell you that they're going to have a bloodless revolution, and they want to make decisions about, where is it? Who can have children, who's going to be in charge of having children, and what kinds of things will be actively involved. And you can put this word that I'm drawing a circle around because I'm deliberately not stating the word, because this is a gargantuan, colossal organization of some ultra wealthy people. They are so wealthy that they don't even take notes when they go. These are those meetings that people would have, as you see in sci-fi movies, and they would say, we were never here. So there's that great elephant again. And these books, this is a very easy, short read. This is a long read. I'm not expecting you to read these books in particular, but you do need to know they exist. And you also need to take note that all of these vanilla brothers are on the cover of this book. And they put in front of the oligarchs, they are the ones that control the wealth on your planet. Why are they here again? Note, I didn't make this slide. I did not create this slide. But the question is raised, what's wrong with perfect? Why is it that perfect has to be blue-eyed, shallow skin, blonde hair? Why? And this was way back. I don't even know if this was 10 years ago. It might have been 12 years ago. Okay, now 2015, this particular cover. Well, actually, this is 2025, so that's right on top of 10 years ago, okay? MIT. Most people think MIT just does stuff with engineering and technology. Man, they do some serious research there about population control, about understanding the human dynamics. Would blow your mind. But you see, I just shared with you a little while ago. Didn't I show you this slide? What's wrong with perfect? Look what's on the cover. 10 years ago. We cannot engineer the human race. And this is 2023. There are two other versions that came out before this version. This brother specialized in studying butterflies. But he made some comments about population control, and he stated, Life, a Journey Through Science and Politics. And they revisit the same theme tied to population control. Now, I want to acknowledge how they treat their own, so brown and black people will not become delusional about what's happening with us in the urban environment and our families. 1938, okay? Francis Perkins, for people that don't hear well, I'm not talking about Francis Welsing, I'm talking about Francis Perkins, okay? Francis Perkins, I'll read to you, all right? Okay, April 10th was her birthday, 1888, so like 145 years ago. I had to modify this because obviously I put this slide in my delivery of content literally 4 years ago. Did you know that a woman created Social Security, minimum wage, the 40-hour work week, child labor laws, the welfare, protection of labor rights, all while the first ever female member of a U.S. cabinet? She did all this the first time a woman was allowed to be part of the cabinet. So what does this tell you that vanilla men think about their women? I don't need to tell you, hear it all the time. Could anybody tell me who's identified as the axiom of the most well-known statement in America when they talk about man's best friend? Who is man's best friend? Yeah, and if you didn't know it, I should get one of my Hebrew Israelite brothers to break down the word.
The canine word.
Yeah, Canis familiaris, the dog. Unfortunately, happens to be God spelled backwards. I could break that down for you at another time, but let me share with you what this sister said. This is what she said, all right?
Perkins loan.
Okay, all right, I hear you. This is what this sister said she had to do in order to have some leverage to work with these misogynist, misguided, vanilla males. To accentuate the opportunity that she had been in at a setting, to gain influence, she began to dress and comfort herself in a way that reminded men of their mothers. In other words, she dressed like Aunt B from Mayberry, all right? So rather than doing what women usually like to do, which is making themselves more physically attractive to men, she wanted to make herself look like Mrs. What's that lady's name? Mrs. Doubtfire? What was her name?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Aunt B, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mayberry. Because she knew men would not listen to her if they were distracted with their animal instincts and she came across as being more like a woman that they would look upon and lust rather than someone that they could look at like their mother. And I would say to you very candidly, if we were allowed to do a study on Capitol Hill, I guarantee you probably going to find over 60% to 65% of those vanilla brothers that are congressmen over the age of 45, they probably had a sibling or a relative that suckled from the breast of a black woman. They call them a wet nurse, okay? Now, you grow up this person that turns against you, all right? But remember, you think they're turning against you. This is how they treat their own women. So what makes you think they're going to treat your women better? I guarantee if you were to go out and interview 10 women of color, brown or black, and if they were locking or had their hair in braids, you find at least 6 of them telling you when they got a particular job in certain environments, somebody asked them, are you going to continue to wear that hairstyle? Are you going to dress that way in that environment? So we're about to stop so we can have some comments and questions. So I'm pointing this out to you because I know you heard it, Fahrenheit 451, but you've also heard that the current occupants of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Black Lives Matter Plaza are going all over the US of A trying to tell people which books they can have in their library, which content they can cover, and they had the nerve to step to Veritas, which is supposed to relate to the truth. I could tell you some things about Veritas, i.e. Harvard, and Harvard is like, hold up, you cannot roll up on us and tell us what we can teach and who we can hire. And the ultimate act of extortion, whitemailing, which you've been misled to believe is so-called blackmailing, whitemailing, they literally said, If you don't do what we want, we're going to start denying you fundamental rights that you had, and we're going to take away billions of dollars from your research grants. If that's not coercion, I don't know what coercion is. So you see these books, you see these kids, they don't know what a book is. That's why they're prodding it and poking it. They don't know. And if we don't teach them and guide them, they will know even less. So now we can take that dive into dealing with these questions and comments, and we can roll with it, all right? So people, I told you, I had to make sure we left plenty of room for comments from some of the wise people in the audience, some of the people that have comments in the audience, some of the people that like to share points of view in the audience. So let's take that dive and realize that if you don't have a sense of who you are, you will not know what to eat. And if you don't know what to eat, you can forget about having a sense of identity, because people are identified all over the world based upon what they eat. And beyond that, you know for a fact, every person of color, no matter where you go in the world, somebody has a drum, somebody's playing music, and somebody is interacting literally to the music. And music doesn't always literally have to be restricted to the drum, because the finest instrument that people have are your vocal cords. And it's a reason some people call them vocal folds that study speech pathology, but your vocal cords, they will allow you to navigate the world by communicating. And you know better than I do. I know some of your brothers know, and I know a lot of the women know. People will tell you, I'm getting to know him better. I like him because he has a deep voice. And brothers will say, I like her. She's really nice. And I just love the way she talks. That's your instrument. And that bad boy resonates with your chakras and your spinal cord. And it's a peekaboo into the integrity of your pineal gland. So let's talk, people. Telepathy doesn't work online.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yes, my brother. As usual, some of the stuff you put on us, you drop on us, as I say. It takes a little while to absorb it all, because it's new, and some terminologies are unfamiliar. But again, you put it over so easy that we can absorb it. Maybe not with the speed we would like, but we are absorbing it so that we can come again. And one of the ways I feel that we should come back to what you said is by going to your books, stuff that you published, because in those books, one would find some clarity in a lot of things you drop on us. Make it easier for us when we listen to you, to gain or maintain that knowledge base. Now, I'd like to, from what you said, I'm coming to the conclusion that, and I'm going back to one of your books, which says that in simple terms, how does one function optimally with the highest regard for their spiritual essence in society, in a society that systematically assigns resources and/or obstacles to one's path through every avenue of human endeavor? In other words, all these folks here, these oligarchs in their control, the control oligarchs, and the stuff they use, they've got all these resources that they use against us. I mean, are we in some way can manage to deflect all the stuff that they're throwing to us I mean, it doesn't seem so. So because of what we're seeing in society, it seems like day after day after day, we're just marking time and things just remain the same. But there are very little changes. And asking us to self-identify, I mean, how do you feel we can go about this as a people?
Does anybody know the brother's name that the feds took out? He was a Black Panther. I don't think his name was Fred Hampton. Who was the brother that they made a movie about him recently, and he talked to everybody? I think they took him out in Chicago. I'm trying to remember his name. They made a whole movie. That's his name, Fred Hampton?
Yeah, it was Fred.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, because they shot up the whole house, his lady in the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And I mentioned Fred Hampton to you because Fred Hampton, in a way that, quite frankly, was clearly overtly different than Malcolm, Fred Hampton told everybody what was going on in the system. He didn't lock down literally exclusively on melanin dominant people. Anyone that understood the reality. And the reason why I say that to you is because I have to remind a lot of my ebony brothers and sisters that sometimes they fail to recognize that some of the First Nation people and some of your Latino brothers and sisters are literally your brothers because they don't know about the Olmecs and the Aztecs. And so when you raise the question about what can we do, you see I highlighted here number 2?
Yeah.
All of us are riding in the toxic rivers of racism. What happens is we don't look at silly movies like I'm Gonna Get Your Sucker. And when Clarence Williams pointed out, the guys asked him, like, what happened to the revolution and what happened to the Black conscious people? And the reality is in our face today in the 2025. They got government jobs. So they thought that they had security.
Yeah.
And thinking that you have security can create the illusion of stability. And if you have the illusion of stability, you might get caught sleeping. All of the brothers that I used to counsel that had been in the NOM when I was in Nashville, doing some stuff out of Meharry and Vanderbilt, because we didn't do the counseling at Fisk, we did the work at Meharry Medical College, and our assignments were at different places in Nashville, Tennessee. So we have forgotten our identity. We have forgotten that I am my brother's keeper. We have forgotten that when we see that sister on the metro and she's absolutely beautiful, we have forgotten how to make ourselves proximal near her if some of these young thugs are harassing the hell out of her. We don't have to play Superman or Batman. We can just be proximal in the vicinity, just as a show of family, not a show of force. You feel me? So we've forgotten our identity. We've forgotten that we are all, quote unquote, in the same boat. You feel me? We have literally forgotten that. And more importantly, we have forgotten our music. You guys may not know, there was a time when they used to have dances at the Kennedy Center back in the day, and everybody would go there dancing. They forbade those dances after a while because some of those girls from Bethesda, Maryland, Chevy Chase, Maryland, and out in Virginia were hanging out with some of these brothers from Northeast and Southeast Washington, D.C. And vanilla people got word about that for the same thing Dr. Francis Cross Wilson identified. You feel me? And the same thing that happened when we get together in fellowship. Dr. Wilson made it very clear. When you mix brown with that which is not brown, it's going to get browner. And so they were in fear of their genetic annihilation. All right? Public Enemy, as crazy as Flavor Flav was, his weird ass clocks. In fear of a black planet. You feel me? And that's why I share with you. I'm not making any of this stuff up. That's why I say getting in good trouble. That's why you see Sifu Sentinel here. All right? I understand the battle. Somebody needs to be a watcher. Watchers are supposed to let people know what's going on. Marvin Gaye, when he dropped that tune back early 70, 71, like, what's happening? What's going on? We have forgotten our music. And when we forget our music, we lose our identity. I must admit, I like some rap. But, like Tupac, and what's the big brother name from New York? Biggie. All right? Yeah. And
Biggie Smalls.
yeah, even back with Nicky Giovanni, you feel what I'm saying? And my boy that Don't Push Me, I'm Too Close to the Edge. What was his name?
James Brown.
Yes. So I'm trying to say to you, we've forgotten our music, and now we're listening to stuff that doesn't have a message in it. It just excites us at the lower chakras in our body, and we preoccupied ourselves with sexuality. And as a result of that, You don't stimulate your crown chakra, your heart chakra, and these people take advantage of it. And so when you ask me, what can we do? People have to learn how to eat right. You feel me? Like if you go into one of these fast food joints just to get whatever you like with that you want to get, and you see somebody you like nearby in line or whatever, and you got the change on you, it's okay for you to say, yo, sister, yo, young blood, what you want, man? I got you. You know? I mean, you do that. That's family. But vanilla people have told you family is associated with the labels they put on your relatives. That's the reason why when they had us packed like, when they had some people packed like sardines during the passage, they told them, they were oftentimes, what you may not know, is they would put them next to people that did not speak their language.
Yeah.
They did that deliberately. I don't want you talking to these people. Y'all saying some stuff I don't understand. And guess what they used to stop communicating? The drum.
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeling me? So our spiritual resonance is compromised because these people have literally got us to be married to, I'll show you again. This is where we are. You have to see it. That big ass brain there. You know, good and well, as much as we love each other, we would have had a couple of conversations if this technology just glitched and glitched and glitched and glitched. And the reason why we had a couple of conversations, because it may not have crossed our minds that it didn't have anything to do with these big slides. Didn't have anything to do with this sister creating the voice over internet protocol. It may have something to do with the bandwidth being stimulated by people that don't want us talking about what we're talking about. You feel me?
Yes, which is why the drum was banned.
And that's why they cut off so many people's hands, because we were using the Morse code before these people understood dot dash dot dot dash. And the Morse code was in the drum, and the First Nation people were doing the same thing with dot dash dot dot dash 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 with the smoke signals. We've always been creative.
And Bob,
I just want to reiterate.
Going all the way back with that brain.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As the computer, your first computer is the divining chain.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, our brothers and sisters historically used divination, and the divination system was a binary code. But they taught us that, that's voodoo, and they put a negative spin on it to push us away from what that, as we would say, our spiritual connection and our understanding, because that was our ability to basically tune into the cosmic vibrations of the universe, to be able to get guidance and instruction in terms of what we need to do.
Sure, you make it plain. And the way sisters used to bond with sisters when they were getting their hair braided, they would get lessons about life.
Yeah.
They would also be told what not to eat. They would also be told how to relate to that little kid in the village that they got a crush on. They were also told how not to hang around with the older men unless they got that woman's permission that they could talk to that older man, because that older man may be distracted by the old classic song dropped by Roberta Flack when she was talking about Jesse, Reverend Lee.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we don't have our music anymore. So this is why I'm making a big deal out of it. That's why I told the brother I'm playing around with my pianos a lot more. Mm-hmm. Because, like when you understand chords, and you just mentioned this when you talked about the math, you got 88 keys, you feel me? And you got 64 squares on the chessboard, the $64,000 question, and you got the same symbolism built into the Ife or Ifa and the E key. Yeah. That's math. That's pure math. You feel me? So, like I just said to you, you still have brown and black people afraid of algebra, not knowing that it was tied to brothers. The original quote unquote Hebraic brothers gave these people math. We introduced these people to soap.
Yes.
You feel me? I mean, they didn't know what soap was.
Yeah.
So it's like we're about to get caught sleeping. If we let anything happen to that the African American museum that's on the mall that looks like a crown, we really need to snap out of it. Because that book that brother mentioned, and you guys know I never come to you talking about my books. I'm not that kind of brother. You feel me? But that book, when I said, and it's called OMG, The Awakening, oh my God, the president is black. But in the book, I take you to the little journey to understand OM, O-M, all right? Electrical signals transfer back and forth. OM and the Omeni Padme Om, all right? OM, the first phoneme in the word Amen, OM. You feel me? And that G is the sacred geometry that the Masons are wrapped up into. You feel me? I hear so much stuff in that book. You feel me? And the same thing about the octahedron. You are an octahedron. You are two triangles together. You feel what I'm saying? You are literally there because you're a three-dimensional being. You are octahedron. So it's tetra, which is 4, which makes the octahedron. You feel me? Because people think of a triangle as being 3, but it's tetra because you're a three-dimensional being. But I hope we can like have some more comments because, like I said to you, I'm not the one. I'm just bringing a thimble of water to the table, and I'm talking to people that are connected to the vast ocean of the universe. And so when I reiterate to you over and over again, this light represents your pineal gland, and what you may not realize, even in this characterization of the big brain and the computers, the vanilla people, it's only about 5% to 7% of vanilla people that have money that understand that's what they're trying to figure out how to control. You feel me? It's easy to control the human cortex, all right? It's easy to control that. But the deep recesses of your brain require some sophisticated technology because it's connected to your life force. Now, you know these guys clearly represent the men in black. And you see they're overseeing what's going on in the world. And these guys literally are these guys that you see on the cover of this book. You have to ask yourself, how is it the people that make up less than 4%, maybe 3.8% of the population on your planet, can control over 80% of the wealth on your planet? I'm talking about the white men in general, because you know your Saudi brothers, some of your Asian brothers got a little change. But these people are controlling all of these resources. How do they manage to do that? If not some thievery involved. So formulas of what to eat. Eat what you intuitively know you should eat. Give a little thought to things that you just really, really like to eat because it tastes good, unless you intuitively know that those things are good for you. You know, a lot of the African foods that, like, people just got into quinoa, they get into cassava and another lolo, and you find them in these high-end health food stores. Foods that brown and black people would eat on a regular basis. Plantain, you know, like some couscous. We don't even know what to eat. As a matter of fact, we have become so conditioned with what we should not be eating that we actually, like Malcolm said, we eat poison and don't even know that it's poison because it's so anchored in monosodium glutamate, and you chase it with certain things and it creates the illusion that it's okay and it's good for you. This is a sad statistic here. Black males living 15 years shorter than our vanilla males in the DMV in Washington, D.C. And sisters are right at almost 10 years. And we haven't even talked about ladies having problems delivering babies. And I mentioned to you when I brought this to your attention, these folk want to control. They want to control who's having the babies. Where's that word? We want to have a bloodless revolution. Sex is being policed. It's not even no justice. The Temptation dropped that in that 1990 album. Ain't no justice. All right? So people talk to me because I deliberately wanted to make sure that I gave us opportunities to share and communicate information and illuminate subject matter that I may have brushed over.
Right.
And while you're thinking about your question, here is something you can put in your bank of knowledge. If your urine is other than the colors at the top, your blood is probably acidic, and the pH balance in your urine is probably acidic. And if it's darker than what you see here, you need to hydrate, put some more vegetables in your diet, cucumbers, parsley, some fruit. But go ahead, brother, you were about to share a comment or question.
I there's an issue that I've had it for a long time. I mean, and there's quite a few questions that I can't understand that we who are the majority in the world are not proud of being the majority of the world, don't love each other, don't trust each other, kill each other, and we love the poison that the Europeans spread in everything, in religion, food, weapons, and everything. And I can't like the biggest question I can't understand is why we who are so oppressed we don't see the oppression, and we don't try to fight the oppression. And quite a few, just like what Curtis Mayfield said, you have a choice of color. Most people still would not want to be black if they could do everything that they could with it.
Curtis Mayfield also said uneducated fools from uneducated schools.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I remember if you had a choice of colors, which one you'd choose, my brothers. You feel me?
Greetings, elders. Hey, how's it going? This is Brother Chief Black.
Hotep, Baba Chief.
Hotep, peace to you, peace to the elders. Respect. I just wanted to add on to this topic. I want to say thank you very much for covering this topic as well, because it's so important nowadays to understand and incorporate how much your diet affects your thinking and our habitat and our nature, and how a correct diet can so much influence us as a people. And the cycle that I talk about with life growing, building, health along with the Earth's rotation, when it be like like now would be like the proper Kwanzaa time for us to respect the growth of life and sharing the practices that we've used to harvest the best fruit, which go into dance, spiritual practice, which goes into how we raise our children, formulating programs around those collective gatherings, sharing those first fruits of our crop. All that is very important to the natural culture of us as African people. And going through the Dr. Sebi fast, I'm on my 6th year. The poison that they put into us to oppress our thinking and action comes from the food. And they've been planning this for years. So for us to reiterate the importance of eating clean and righteous vegetation and righteous practices of crop and growth, we are to reach that next level of divine living in today's modern age, which the world has not seen yet. We understand the science of good health, given our elders, rest in peace, Dr. Sebi. But now we have the opportunity to put it in action. And the action, being from Oakland, California, comes from not just feeding the people, which the Black Panther did in my elder time, but now we have to get to the science of feeding them exactly the correct ingredients to start their day, which the Black Panthers intended, or the Black Panther program, breakfast program, so the kids could think, so we could get the most out of our everyday activities, and we could get to that higher level of functioning as a people. So I want to say thank you and reiterate my appreciation for this good, healthy eating.
And I want to amplify what you just said, brother. This is the reason why we need to talk more. You feel me? We actually need to make an overt effort from time to time to have some face-to-face think tanks. Even if that means we're going to identify, like, once a month, we're going to meet in Malcolm X Park and have a brain trust and maybe a little drumming and bring some natural food and hang out, because we don't do that anymore. You feel me? I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying we don't do it at the level that we should do it. But what you just pointed out was you started talking about food. This is why you see this brother that I'm highlighting here, this vanilla brother here, with all
Yes,
the money
sir.
he has in the computers, and you notice that quote unquote the money he put into taking over the food and buying land and stuff like that. They even working on trying to use insects to feed certain people in continental Africa. But what's really
He knows Oakland very well. He pays for donates to Oakland Tech.
well, we know. Well, I'm not going to dive into that other than to point out. It's like, let me put it to you like this: you guys are very much aware of the terminology from the 70s. When people were being pimped, all right? And some people, they know they're being pimped, but they're willing to be pimped if they can get the clothes and the cars and have access to the women that they want. And I say to you very candidly, and I know a lot of my colleagues will be upset with me, but fuck it. Excuse me. The bottom line is, in a nutshell, is so many of us in academia, we have lost the reason why our parents' probably had to go to segregated schools, because there were times when your parents knew they were being loved by those teachers that looked like them. Are you following me? They invested in them. But now we're into like, what have you done that Vanilla Brothers and Sisters is going to say, oh my God, great job. What have you done for your own? And what we do for each other is always tied into food, brother. It's tied into the music. And if we don't connect with our music and our food, we may as well sit back on every weekend and revisit how we're going to write our eulogy. Because it's the food and the music that's taking us off the planet. Because you listen to some crazy jacked up music and then immersed into a video game, your brain is so wound up once you drink one of those monster drinks, you might even bust a cap in somebody's behind for making you screw up a level in a video game.
That's right. It happens.
And you can get outside your flat and walk around in the community because you've been playing video games for the longest. And some of those video games you played have made you disconnect with reality. And somebody could step on your $150 sneakers and you might decide you want to bust a cap in the behind. Or they might pull by in a car that's cleaning and shinier than yours at a stoplight. And there could be a honey in the car to remind you of the honey that you had. And then you feel that you got to confront that brother. This is why I'm a behavior neuroscientist, but if we don't start doing more for our own and demanding some accountability from these mega churches, demand accountability. And if we don't remind the NAACP and the Urban League that you are an organization, you need to speak up or shut up. Don't call me when you want a donation. Don't call me when you want me to chase a particular candidate for a particular office. The real politics takes place in the community.
Yes, sir.
Mama,
That's
your
why.
hand is raised.
Go right ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead and acknowledge, Sister Tende.
Yeah, brother, I really was just going to reiterate some of the things that you were saying, and especially dealing with the food last night when we had a meeting. That was one of our discussions. I was talking about us going back to community gardens, because it's not only that, even if you try to buy some food in the grocery store, even if it says organic, you better read the ingredients, because, Food and Drug allows it to be labeled organic if it's like 49% or 50% organic. It doesn't have to be totally organic. So, in terms of reading and all that sort of thing, I know when I was working at Coppin, that was back in the early 90s, brother. And I was concerned and telling folks then, no, we have to work with these young women who are coming on campus with their babies, because we've got babies having babies having babies. So by the time you in your 20s, you are a grandmother or great grandmother in your 30s. And so what knowledge can you pass down when you, Baba, wants to know what happened to us and so on and so forth. And with the food, think about all the food that we were denied and the food that we were given during enslavement, after a while started tasting pretty good. What I'm saying, when you couldn't get any food. So now the hog is good and everything else that we weren't supposed to have, to address with it. But I'm just saying, back then, when young women were coming on campus with their babies, they had a bag of potato chips and some Kool-Aid or soda in the bottle, not mother's milk. And so I started talking to folks about what that could possibly be doing to us and to our brains and so on and so forth, and how it might affect the next generation. Folks thought I was being crazy, but I was kind of understanding it then. And I'm saying in the early 80s, when I did work for a computer company, folks were then, those Europeans were talking about what they were going to do when they became the minority. They thought by it was going to be 2025. And they started back in, at least then, they were putting Project 25 in place.
Oh, no doubt.
So,
No doubt.
yeah.
Um,
So what I'm just saying is that our planning, like you said, the reality of the food, understanding its relationship to our development and growth, understanding what it does, as you had said, to the brain, not just to the physical body, but even with the physical body, because look at how many of us have cancer or some whatever, and truly it's actually food related. Okay. And not having clean water, not drinking the appropriate water, not testing the water, you know, drinking the tap water and whatnot.
Teach
That's
my sister.
looking at those relationships with those things in terms of how it affects not just individuals, but our community, our race. So
Thank you so much. You definitely, I mean, that's it.
yeah, but also Father Mama Tendai, I came across this research paper and it's about it was a anthropology exam research PhD, and this sister or this woman did a study on the carbon-19 of the bones of the slaves
yes,
in the West Indies as well as in the South, and they were able to trace the impact of the diet and the soil and how it was actually have traces in the bones and the tissues.
you know that Michael Blakey, when we had the bones at Howard, and he basically was studying them then, those were some of the things that he found, the minerals and things that were still in the bones, because we when we talk about we never die, we really don't look into it. Because I'm saying those bones, those things are still, the minerals and stuff were still there. So that means life is still there.
Mhm.
Okay. It's just that the flesh on the outside had deteriorated and become earth by that time. But he was studying and he found some of those things at that time. So, but you're right. So everything that Baba is saying is correct. And I'm saying, and especially with the oligarchs, I already knew about them too.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then and their little group to try to have as many babies as they can, because they
Oh,
try to
yes.
go back and do the same thing that Hitler talked about in terms of
Oh,
that
yes.
master race.
Oh, yes. You know, most Americans don't even realize that the Third Reich got their foundation for eugenics and genocide from the United States. It
I
started
remember
here.
also, I remember when South Africa, when they came over to the US also to find out how white folks over here had dealt with enslavement and how they had perfected segregation so that they could go back and duplicate it and make apartheid.
Listen, you know, I'm telling you, but like the brother asked the question, like, what can we do about it? Like I just said, we need to realize that we're each other's brothers and sisters keeper. And it's not going to happen when we just have a isolated conversation every night. Like I said, I teach by example. You know, everything that I do, sometimes I have students, they just become so fond of what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm not going to lock you down because of your grade on the paper. Did you share a thought in class? You follow me? And depending upon the significance of that thought from your point of view, I'm going to modify your grade according to me watching your growth, not how much I see on a piece of paper. You feel me? Because that's what teaching is about. That's why I was teaching the brother who's going through my background and my training. The truth of the matter is, the only reason I decided to get all these grades and degrees was because of, number one, scholarships paid for them, and number two, my mother told me, and my father said, boy, you just know too much to just keep it to yourself. You know? And so in this country, if you don't have the paper, folk won't listen to you. And in
Exactly.
this country, if you don't have the quote unquote, and the irony of it is, let me tell you, it gets deeper than that. If you don't have the visibility of an athlete or an entertainer, folk won't even hear about you. You feel me? I never figured out how Oprah wound up with Dr. Phil, all the other brown people that I know that would be able to plug into all kinds of information. And I never got a good handle on what the hell happened to Sadie in that jail. You feel me? I see all types of things online now about Sabi's foods, and remedies and stuff like that. Sabi was talking about moss and mucus in your body being related to cancer 35 years ago.
Yeah.
You follow me? So, we're in a war, and this word you should put in your vocabulary. I know I'm going to be in trouble, but like I said, John Lewis, good trouble. Listen, you are literally a manifestation of how your environment molds you. And when
Yeah.
something is being molded, it's a little bit like you have Play-Doh and clay, you shape it. And so whoever you are around, they change you. Muhammad Ali said about, I don't know, maybe about 35 years ago, he was talking to Howard Cosell or somebody, and the guy said to him, he said, I'm about to imitate Ali, so I'm not going to do it now. He said, Cosell. But the bottom line, this is what he said. He said, Cosell said, Ali, you're not the man you used to be. What do you think is happening? Are you the man? And Muhammad said, if I was the man I used to be, that would mean I'm not growing. The man I used to be is the man I used to be, which allowed me to evolve into the man that I am now. And then he tapped his toupee and said, you're not the man you used to be. I know you didn't weren't born bald-headed. And Cosell be putting his toupee back on his head. And see, those jewels and those gems, Martin has some mind-blowing conversations, but we don't get access to those conversations. You feel me? And that's by design. It's going to get worse with these new algorithms, what they put online. If we don't speak up, I say we, because we is just me upside down. If we don't speak up, it doesn't make any sense for me to know what I know about neurobiology and just sit back and write for stuff and try to get recognition and published and recognized by vanilla people and travel all kinds of places and say, I did this, I did that. I does not represent who my person is. My person is an extension of you. I exist because of you. And I totally understand that. But let me just summarize something quickly. One of the challenges that we have with our identity is we are so fragmented in a sense of identity that we do not know how to cultivate nurturing relationships. Some of the brothers don't know how to appreciate good sisters. Some of the sisters don't know how to appreciate good brothers. And then some of the sisters, they find their companionship with another sister. And then some brothers find their companionship with another brother. And what I'm getting at is we need to understand our natural identity. That's not me knocking people that are into certain lifestyles, because people have a tendency to lock down on, you said this about these people, you said that. But see, that's the ignorance that comes from that European thinking. It's called dichotomous logic. Dr. Nichols talked about it extensively.
Yeah.
If you're not on my side, if you don't see things the way I see things, then that means you're saying something is wrong with me. No, I'm telling you, you're different.
Right.
And I'm different. Just when I said about the same boat, but we're in the river of racism. You feel me? I used to love to softly intimidate the Jehovah's Witnesses when they would come to my house. And I would do it gently. They would say, "Here, you can come in." And they would say, do you have a Bible? I said, which one do you want? You want the Quran? You want the sutras? What do you want? Do you want the Bhagavad Gita? No, I want the Holy Bible. I said, you want King James Version? You want the books of the Apocrypha? They would leave. They would leave and leave a little watchtower. And I wouldn't try to, I'm like, look, you came here to share with me as you are, quote unquote, a servant, and what's the word they call themselves, a soldier. I'm like, listen up. You came to my house, I'll let you in. We're sitting around the coffee table. You follow me? And they would come in, they would sit down. I'd be really polite to them. Knocking on my damn door early on the damn Saturday morning, and I'm trying to sleep late. So yeah, I'll let you in, but I'm going to expose you to these books. All right? And I said, which Bible do you have? There's only one Bible, young man. I'm going to say, if you know anything about Bible comes from the word biblios, which means book, which was the word they used when they stacked papyri together. But they're not able to handle it. So you don't knock what they're saying, you just offer them some more information. And I don't need to tell any of you people, you all are wise enough to know, some of the most loving relationships are born out of sharing a good meal together. A good meal that you know is a good meal. You feel me? And any woman that I knew of that had parents and they grew up in the 80s or the 70s, they knew, even though it became cliche, the adage was, if you want to get to that man, the best way to get to that man is through his stomach. You feel me? And then we got so confused with Europeans' beliefs about life. Brothers figured they could take you to a restaurant where you could sit down and have a knife, a fork, and a damn spoon and a goblet at the table. They figured that gave them carte blanche access to your cookies. Because they spent a meal on you. They bought you a meal.
Yeah.
Feel me? Rather than saying, look, let's go to my house, my flat. We can prepare a meal together. We can pick up things, and we made it together. You feel me? But we got that mentality. We want quick pleasure. So the brother pointed it out. It's difficult to navigate a society, like Dr. Wilson said. In every theater of where you walk in life, you have to deal with a system of racism and white supremacy. And if you lack knowledge of who you are, you will be oblivious to how to navigate it. You won't know how to navigate it. A Marine cut me off one time. I was driving somewhere in North Carolina. I knew it was a Marine because we drove all the way up to a facility, and he followed me, and he got out the car and walked up to my car, and I stood in front of him. I said, let's keep our arms linked. And he went into a bunch of polysyllabic curse words. I said, you're a Marine, bro. You either went to Quantico, or you went, not to Quantico, you went down to Paris Island, you went out to California. I said, you don't even know where I've been trained. Well, I should do blah, 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 blah. I said, I didn't cut you off, you cut me off. And I said, you know what's going to happen? If you and I have an exchange out here, one of us is going to get injured, or both of us might get injured, and the policeman is going to come up and want to handcuff both of us. But I had to back up to tell him that because he was so hyped. And I said, so when you went to Paris Island, they told you who the enemy was. And you're so mad because they call you the N-word and all that kind of stuff, because they did brothers like that when they went to Paris Island. You know, they try to dehumanize you. And now you coming up here acting like you got the attention span of a sneeze, telling me I cut you off. I said, that occurred to you that I was in a hurry just like you? And so we kind of worked that out, right? And then we wound up giving each other a pound and a long dap handshake. And I said, just think what would happen. I said, you don't know me. I said, I've been studying martial arts all my life. But I kept arm's distance. And as I backed up to tell him, oh, so you can take me? I said, we already been taken. We're having an argument right now with something stupid. And I said, as we continue to argue, people will look at us and say, look at them two stupid N-words. You feel me? You all remember when James Brown movie was done? I forgot the name of it, but the brother that crossed over played his character, and James Brown, when he was growing up, and they showed you these guys in a boxing ring. They had to fight each other.
Yeah.
Little kids, they had to fight each other, and the vanilla people were betting on which one could knock each other out.
Mhm.
You feel me? You don't know who you are, you will do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And dumb stuff reinforces more dumb stuff. You feel me? And your grandmother could read you just like a comic book if you sat down in front of her. She'd literally read you, even though she might drink a little bit of this or chew a little bit of tobacco or whatever. She could sit down, baby, and read you. But we don't have our elders around anymore because the sister just pointed out, you got babies having babies, so you have no time to figure out who you are. And you're trying to figure out who's going to sport you, buy these Pampers or these Loves or Huggies and buy you some baby formula. And you didn't have a childhood because you had a child when you were a child. And people know when you're under pressure all the time, it's three things that people like. They like to remove the pain, and one of the easiest ways to remove the pain is with pleasure. And pleasure can come from food, it can come from sex, and some people find a lot of pleasure in the church because the church oftentimes excuses them from their responsibilities because they think that they can just pray on it and it'll go away. And if they don't pray on it, they have a generic term that they fall back on and say, I'm just taking one day at a time. I'm going to take it to the Lord.
Well, I'm saying, yes, the Lord will handle it. Give it to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Now that in their book, it also says faith without works is dead. Not understanding that part.
We don't read anymore. We don't read anymore, and we don't listen to our elders. We don't even talk to each other anymore. When I see people proximal to me, I speak to them. And when they don't speak back, I said, I didn't get that. I said, you using telepathy? And then they'll look, I said, well, I'm not trying to hit on you, Mac, or anything like that. I just thought I'd give you a shout out, you know. We're family. I don't even know you. I said, clearly you don't. Because if you knew me, you would know that I'm an extension of you. So I live this. And I know we're about to stop, but I'm telling you, that's why I like doing these presentations. I find myself isolated sometimes. You feel me? Because, you know.
Come over to the isolation booth, Baba.
So what, my sister?
I said, come on over to the isolation booth. I speak to all folks, all non-melanated people I see.
Oh, yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Look at me like I'm crazy, but it's all right because it's on them. I'm doing what my spirit tells me to do.
Exactly. I do that too. When I see young brothers or young blood, they're like, what? And every now and then I see a vanilla person and they have a decent spirit. I say, "Excuse me, brother," and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" I'm like, "You don't know you a hybridized version of who my people were. And had you not got locked up in that ice age in the Caucasus Mountains, you would have a better sense of who you are. And if your folk were not tampering with that damn genetic engineering, creating these hybrids on the planet, you would be so disillusioned from me watching your back." I heard a white boy say one time, call him a white boy, because he said if Obama threw me a life raft, I'd probably drown. I said, no, you probably wouldn't drown because if Obama threw you a life raft, he probably threw it to you because there was some sharks behind you. You feel me? Like you wouldn't have an opportunity to drown. Because Barack lived out in the Polynesian Islands in Hawaii for a while, and he lived in Indonesia.
Mhm.
Feel me? You know, but at any rate, I always embrace talking to you all. And this brother, he teases me. It's so funny, but I'm giving you guys a lot of information. I'm telling you stuff that you already know. And as soon as we stop talking, you have a moment and you reflect on it and it comes out. Like that book, Reality Check. Man, it took me about 11 years to write that damn book. And every now and then when I'm reading that book, this is what I say. Niyana, did you write this? Damn, did you write this, bro? Because there's stuff in there about physics, stuff in there about pure chemistry, stuff in there about tachyon pulse waves. It's stuff in that book about smart highways that were not even developed then. You feel me? And smart cars. Because when you tap into the Akashic records with your ancestors, they will tell you things.
And speaking about that book, Dr. Koko, I guess we can remind our audience how they can get a copy of it.
Oh, actually, I think I'm going to pull straight up to this page and you can get a copy of it easily from that website, eyesofmaat.com, right? Eyes of
Okay.
Maat. And if you're local, you don't even have to do that. You can email me and let me know where you are in DC. That way we bypass all the funny tax and crap. And I think those books are 22 US dollars and one is 25 US dollars. And but you know, I never advertise my books. I'm not. That's not the kind of person I am, right? But if you email me at seafoodsentinel@gmail.com, and if you're local in DC, we can easily rendezvous somewhere. You can get your hands on the book, and I'll say to you, Reality Check. Every time I read it, I'm like, damn, it's some stuff in that book, brother. You feel me? Because it's about literally, it's a manual for the melanin dominant human. It's for primarily for melanin dominant people. It tells you how to awaken the essence of who you are by realizing what makes you who you are, and also understand that there's a war going on. And we're in a war. Last thing I want to say about this, not tied to the book because the book is easily found at the website. One of the things that brown and black people forget, we forget just because we have our favorite food in the cupboard in the refrigerator. We forget that if we had hard times that would go along beyond 90 days, we'd be damn near homeless. You feel me? And for some people, if they miss 2 or 3 paychecks, you follow me? Because capitalism is set up that way. It's set up that way because it's only about 35% of the people that live in this country can actually sustain themselves on the other side of 90 days to 120 days without getting a check. The other 65 to 68%, if they miss 3 checks, they're either going to be selling something or borrowing something from somebody because that's the way the society is set up. You feel me? But you never go broke if you have true, genuine friends that will say to you when you need something, listen, am I giving this to you or am I loaning it to you? You feel me? Am I giving it to you or am I loaning? Because don't tell me to loan it to you if you know that you probably won't be able to pay me back until years from now. And if you can afford it, give it to them. I remember in Detroit and even in Richmond, they used to have what they call rent parties. But we
And
don't,
everywhere.
you know,
Brooklyn, New York, that was a good place for that.
yeah,
Makes
because
parties.
where we live, you know. And the First Nation people, when you showed up and people didn't know which quote unquote so-called clan or tribe you were from, they would ask you, what do you need?
Well, we were, all those things that do you think helped in stabilizing the urban families? you know, even if you may call them rent parties.
Mhm.
People did all kinds of things to help to pay their rent or buy food. But in saying these things about uh, stabilizing health and identity, I think that a lot of people have been, focusing on these things and are projecting them to our people. But then the enemy has a larger or a greater resource of communicating the things that are not healthy for us. And it sort of like overwhelms our people. But even in the music that we're getting.
Oh, yes.
So, and the food that we're eating. I mean, how do you go against McDonald's and all those different people with their ads accompanied by the music and Ronnie McDonald's and for the kids and people think it's so fun, so much fun being there and and the taste. You're a psychologist or you're a person who studied the
Yeah.
brain and you know that they have these industrial psychologists who
Yeah.
take these experiments with children and what they would like to eat and they're even targeting our neighborhoods. So I would it's kind of late for us to go more into this, but I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to come back to Dr. Koko is gonna be with us.
Yeah, we can talk about neuromarketing and food because you remember that silly
Yeah.
movie called They Cloned Tyrone? You feel me? And they said it was something in the chicken. You feel me? But, I mean, brother shot a brother because he cut in front of him at Chick-fil-A or some other food joint. You feel me? Because they put things in those foods. And
Yes.
your body, go ahead, bro, because I've been done talking. Go right here, brother. Say something.
One of the things I found out because I had some friends who used to work in the food industry, but they left. This one sister, she was a chemical engineer, and her first job was to create this sugar preservative solution for French fries that we sold in these different fast food restaurants. And then I had another friend. She used to work for this other company when she got out of school, but she left because she had to develop the processes to add like the clay, like the food grade clay, and some other non-food stuff to make sure that when the food stuff gets processed through the tubes, it doesn't adhere to the tubing itself.
That's what they take our intelligence. You all remember the little Pillsbury Doughboy? It
Right.
was a sister that worked for Pillsbury. She worked for those people, and she came up with the Pillsbury Doughboy. The point being, when she came up with the Pillsbury Doughboy, I think her income was something like about $45,000 a year. Now you all know about the Pillsbury Doughboy, but what people may not know is the little Pillsbury Doughboy was like a little miniature version of Casper, and you touch his tummy, and he would do things. But Pillsbury Doughboy was white flour. You follow me? And it got people into thinking that it's okay to get those little quick mix fix things with white flour. And what a lot of people didn't realize is all that flour wasn't really flour. You follow what I'm saying? And so these people are who they are. When people show you who they are, believe them. Like the Tuskegee study, I don't know how in the blankety blank did melanin dominant people forget what happened to the First Nation people with the smallpox and the blankets, how they quickly forgot what happened at Tuskegee, how they used Miss Evers to basically be the liaison to entice those men to be experiments in the Tuskegee study. And that's just isolated. If you were to look at medical apartheid, you see all the kind of crap they've done to us, the grave robbers, the missing women, we're in a. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna be done, brother. The reason why it's so difficult for Black people, melanin dominant people, to connect is one fundamental culprit. We have lost our spiritual connectedness.
Yep.
We have misguided ourselves with religion and lost our spiritual connectedness. There are vanilla people that still practice their rituals tied to things that they knew from the old country. They practice it. And they know that we are a very spiritual people. So in lieu of us getting our spirituality, which would empower us, they gave us religion. And religion really literally means to bind. Okay? It means to tie up your mind. You feel me? And there are people that you know that you love in your extended family. They will debate with you literally left and right before a funeral or after a funeral or about church. And they'll say to you, you don't believe in God. How you going to believe in Islam? How you going to believe in Buddhism? How you going to deny your God, Lord Jesus Christ, the Savior? How you going to do that? There are people tripping now because I think the Pope crossed over on Easter. You feel me? And the average person that you talk to about Easter, they don't know why Easter moves every damn year. They don't know how it's tied to spring. They don't understand the symbolism of the colored eggs relating to chromosomes and new life. They don't know anything about that. They just know 3 days later, which they don't know it has to do with the equinox, and then around Christmas time, the solstice. They don't know that. And because they don't know that, like he's not my buddy, but he's my colleague, Dr. Cook would say, I don't know where he got it from. It's like, what you don't know, you don't know. You don't know that you don't know it.
Right.
So you don't know that you don't know it because you don't know it.
And that, in a nutshell, Baba Mosi, is our children who are in the public school system. They don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. So if they don't know that they are Africans, if they don't know anything about our rituals, if they don't know about their own spirituality, if they don't know who they are, and they have been taught that everything that they are is negative and bad, then it's easy to kill one that looks like you because you have learned to hate yourself.
And then you add to that, the only thing you think you can be is an entertainer or an athlete.
Right.
You feel me? And then they get entertainers and athletes to tell you about who you are. And folk like me, you don't see us because, like you said earlier, brother, we don't get the grand microphone or the grand stage.
Yeah.
You feel me? And then you got black folk that are educated, and if you're not doing what they do, they're threatened by you. They'll even judge you.
Thank you.
But brother, I work for the Great Spirit, and I know we're about to stop, but it's always my joy and my honor to share my little thimble, my drops of water with the universe. Because as you know, your physical body, it will go and go and go back to from whence it has come. But the information that you share, it lives on and on and on.
Ashe, ashe, ashe.
You have something to say?
One little thing that some of the biggest things that the United States is doing is this: they're spreading Monsanto and all those companies, just forcing African countries to buy the seeds for the food that they have there. And as a matter of fact, today they have a bunch of people that they're putting together trying to say that they're going to stop what's going on in Congo. Try to bring peace to the place, but as long as we have the African command, we got to fight that because. But these people are exporting a bunch of seeds from companies that do artificial or hybrid type of seeding. Again, like Monsanto.
You talk about those demon seeds. You plant them to use them once, then the soil dies and won't grow nothing else. Then you got to buy more seeds from them to try to enrich the soil, and then it'll take something else out of the soil. As a matter of fact, Baba Laila Africa, we had a conversation about this at least 25 years ago.
Yeah.
About what was going on, and some guys I knew from the NAM, we talked about cloud seeding with the quote unquote droughts that you would find throughout continental Africa. You see, we've forgotten that we're dealing with demons. I suggest you guys look at the Omen 1, 2, and 3, and see we've forgotten our spirituality. And when you forget your spirituality, it's almost like your ancestors are waiting for you to call them, but you forgot their number. And because you have so many ancestors, they have a profound respect for bloodlines that they don't usually jump into your life space unless it's something really critical and they all know that you need to finish this mission. And you know, it's like you may try to go somewhere one day and you found out the battery dead in your car, but you didn't know that they had a major accident on the freeway about the same time you would have got there if your car had cranked up. So you don't know stuff like that. You feel me? Because we don't talk to our ancestors anymore. You feel me? And vanilla people know to keep us from talking to our ancestors, they wrap us up with stuff like this. Not that. I want to take it to this big brain. Because these kids, you're not able to talk to these kids. They're wrapped up with their digital devices. I tease my kids sometimes in the classroom, and it probably happens about 25% of the time. I'll say, why would you come to class if you're not Googling something online with your smartphone? And why would you come to class if you need to volley text back and forth with somebody while you're in class? You could go online and get some of this stuff that I'm telling you, learn it on your own. You don't even have to come to class. You feel me? But I don't point them out as an individual. I point them out and say to them, I bet you that you haven't done any research on your phone. You might have purchased something on your phone. You may have exchanged a music list and a few pictures on your phone. You follow me? Or you may have texted somebody on your phone. But do you realize that you have that miniature computer and you only use it for about 3 things? So why do you need a $700 to $1,300 telephone if you are not going to, quote unquote, do something with it? And if you guys were to ride the metro between now and Sunday, you're going to find probably 95% of the people on those trains have a phone.
Walking down the street, Baba.
Yeah, I'm talking when you're on the train, you can really tune in to them, right?
Yeah.
They have a telephone. You feel me? And there are, unfortunately, educated Black people that are using these devices to babysit their children. They give them a little tablet, you feel me? And sometimes a smartphone. They don't even talk to the child. They go do what they need to do or feel like they need to do, and the child is playing with that device. And the video games on the thing is basically dehumanizing the child about human connection.
Right.
I have a slide that I use showing people about this little kid trying to figure out how to train his dog. Guess what this kid is doing? He's gone online, and he's got a YouTube video, and he has his dog looking at the YouTube video about what he thinks the dog should do.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I have the video. And what's so funny about it is, I have a slide for it too. What's so funny about it is, if I were to say that the kid is expecting the dog to look at the video because he's looking at the video, but the dog is just being next to him for companionship. The
Right.
dog's not watching the damn video. You feel me? And the kid is explaining to the dog the video. You feel what I'm saying? And so when you add that up, I know people that have children and they got little things to take their kids to the bathroom. It play music if they pee. It play a different type of music if they poop. And they put the kid in a little baby swing when the kid is near them, and they don't, like you made a comment a little while ago about systems. I used to take my firstborn child with me to Howard University to the lab. And I was the only dude walking across campus in 1984, 1985 with my daughter on a papoose pouch. And I had to tell my colleagues in the lab, you work in a rat lab, I work in the human lab, you're not touching my baby. And I'm not with that child's mother anymore, because I remember I would take my kid to me to work. When I taught in the Pentagon, I took my kid with me there. You feel me? They would be drawing on a little whiteboard on the side. And I'm like, you tell them your job won't let you bring the kids to the class? Bring to work? Vanilla people have bring your pet to work day.
Yes.
You tell them you can't take my kids with you to work? They went with me everywhere. You feel me? And I say that to you openly without any kind of reservations. Their sister now are divorced. Because sometimes you come together with people to produce children. And like Tyler Perry said, the people that you meet, sometimes they're in your life to get you at a certain atmosphere, at a certain level. Then you outgrow them, you grow in different directions.
And when ancestors are ready to come, they put together whoever's right there and so that they can come.
Yeah, because the spirits are anxious to come here to help out.
And so it doesn't necessarily mean that yours is a life partnership.
And that means you got your soulmate, because hitting that coochie is good and hanging out with them because they look nice. You feel me? None of that plays into the equation. The very last thing I want to say to you is, as much stuff was going on in the media with Bill Cosby and Camille, I know Black folk that don't even have what I call financial solvency in a portfolio. I'm going to divorce him. I'm going to divorce her. They cheated on us. Why don't you guys talk about it, because your chakras are out of balance. You feel me? When Curtis Mayfield say it's a new day, work at his sister, basically stick around, y'all can work it out, blah, 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 blah. We don't have that kind of music anymore. People go, I went to your cell phone. Who is this? Who is that? Technology has taken over your life. You feel me? And you react to the technology. I've seen God knows how many arguments with people, literally, some at the airport. Oh, you can't give me your password to your phone? I'm here with you. Let me see your phone. So, brother, that big brain that I put in front of you, that little light is your pineal gland. And here's a metaphor for you. Your lighthouse to communicate with anybody you interact with is your pineal gland. It's your lighthouse.
Mhm.
It will signal them that you're online or offline. It will signal them that you are receptive or you are expressive. Your pineal gland does that automatically. But if you are locked down and dumbed down and junk food and alcohol or too much ganja or whatever it is you have in your body, your pineal gland is not going to be online. It's going to be like a light bulb that's flickering that's about to go out. And the wrong message is going to go across. That's one of the reasons why a lot of humans wind up creating life forms that come to the planet when they've had alcohol in their body or drugs in their body because they're looking for pleasure. And like the sister told you, your ancestors, your spirits are anxious to come here. Remember when Whoopi Goldberg was in the movie and she finally learned how to channel spirits? All right. What was the name of the movie Whoopi Goldberg was in?
Color Purple.
No, not Color Purple. The movie when she channeled this guy that had gotten stabbed.
Yeah, can't remember.
Is that the one called
Yeah.
Ghost?
Yeah, ghosts, right? And so Whoopi realized that she was a real conduit for spirits, but she didn't know because she thought she was faking all along. And as soon as she opened up the portal, all the spirits started hanging around trying to come through her body. And she turned it into humor. They were like, oh God, it's a portal here. Because people assume, this is what I meant when I say you don't die. Energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed. But I'm going to stop because I'm getting hyped up now. And you're
Hold that for next time, bro. We're gonna have some other times and to share your wisdom. So let's close for tonight, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my co-host has been signaling me for a while regarding our time, but because of we don't want to bore or well, this is not really boredom, but to make our audience be wary that we're tiring them out. So okay, folks, thank you very much for being with us again on
Great
Freedom
show.
Friday Forum. This 25th day of April, 2025, and we're gonna have another one next month with Dr. Koko. We're going to be having Dr. Koko in a serial kind of way because there's a lot that he can share and there's a lot we need to help us to stabilize our health and to find our identity. So in that way, we will need to discuss things with those who can help us to go in that direction. Thank you very much again, Dr. Koko. Thank you, folks, for being on. And we're going to call this an evening or an end by using our motto for UNIA. One God,
One God,
One God,
one
one aim,
one destiny.
one destiny.
Thank you all.
One Africa.
One Africa, yes, yes. If you want to review, you can do that. It will be coming on YouTube. You can review it on Facebook page, UNIA-ACL, UNIA Division 330 Facebook page. And so the education continues in the future. So thank you very much again. Hotep.
Peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
Peru.